look, there's a lot of Ethan haters in this community, okay, especially now. But like, if you're an Ethan fan at this point and you're watching me and you hear the way I talk about Ethan, and then you go back and listen to the way Ethan talks about me, I think that there isn't a parity there. We're alive, and I hope. Oops, sorry. Do you find it difficult to genuinely change your opinion on stuff when people constantly look for hypocrisy? No. If there's something that I change my framework on or change my opinion on with new information, I don't think that that is hypocritical. I think that that is normal and that is the right thing to do. And I used to always get real mad at people who would say, you're backtracking. It was like, no, this is new information that I've received, so I'm changing my opinion. And I used to yell at people who would consider that to be backtracking. That's just like debate lord. It's called learning. It's called growth. It's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. And I'm also pretty open and honest about the growth that I've experienced. I even talked about it with Bradley Martyn, the Bro Tips videos. He brought him up because he saw it and he was like, you're based in those videos. Actually, you know what? Let's watch the Bradley Martyn video. Raw talk.
All right, guys, before we get into this podcast, football's in full swing, and you know what that...
Okay, skipping the ads. 1 hour and 52 minutes. This should be a yearly collab. I don't even stand with most of Hasan's views, but it's entertaining to see these two in a pod together. Good shit, Brad. W guess. I love Hasan. Brad, Logan choking you out definitely affected your upswing in notoriety. I hope you're being a more humble big guy. Bradley was asking, will this ever get fixed, or is it even possible for every situation ever? Hasan advocates for regular people every day. I admire him. Let's go.
Oh, man. You got like the busiest guy ever right now.
I know.
Do you think you're more busy now than you've ever been?
No. Well, I mean, look, 2020, when I went full time to a streaming,
yeah,
I streamed 42% of the entire year.
Every time I see, you know, when they measure like streamers and hours watched,
yeah,
you're always up there. Like,
yeah.
But you stream like out of everyone, I think you're the most consistent streamer.
Yeah. Every day, baby. 11 a.m. Pacific time is when I start. And then I go to like 8 p.m. usually.
And did you always talk about politics?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I first started originally, I did it because I was at the Young Turks back then. And I was like, I want a place where I can just like have my own thing. Cause like working under somebody else, like they just do whatever they want. Right.
Yeah.
So that sucked. I wanted my own place where I can have my own community and say whatever the fuck I wanted. But I started playing Fortnite. I strapped a PS4 camera onto my PlayStation 4 at the time, and I started directly streaming from, you could directly broadcast on the PS4.
I remember.
So I started doing that, playing Fortnite, and I would like have my other like journalist friends on, and we'd be talking about like Israel, Palestine while playing Fortnite.
Back then?
Yeah, even back then, even like all the way back in like 2018. So then I switched over to the desktop and, you know, and then I went full time in 2020 and here we are.
Yeah. Yeah. Now we did that interview on your stream. Like, in like, you were getting like concurrent, not on, I don't know if on that day, but you, during the election process, you were getting like 200, 300,000 people watching. And I think it's, for me, I kind of said this to you when you came into the live stream in my gym, but it's really interesting to see the growth of people like you in this space. Cause it really highlights how powerful social media has become.
Yeah.
Like
it's wild. Like the numbers, especially in like key demographics, like originally the key demos that they care about used to be 18 to 35. They changed it because they were like, no 18 to 35-year-old watches TV.
Yeah.
So they went up to like 54. I think now it's like, they say like 25 to 54 or something is the new primary demo target for like TV ads. And even on that front, I'm like destroying most of the other TV networks. Do
you feel like, obviously you feel cool, but like, do you feel an obligation to kind of be a certain way? Like, do you know, because all your like, I feel like when I first saw clips of you way back in the day, like your takes were like way more based.
What do you mean?
Like, no, you just said some, I've seen old clips of you saying crazy what people will bring up, but not that they're not based now, but like you just, have you felt like you had to be more left in like all your stuff?
No, if anything, I got more left now than I was back then.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. Or, well,
like you were more based
no,
then.
but not, no. More left as in like, I was more quote unquote woke, I think. Unless you're talking about like bro tip stuff, which is like way back in the day. That's what okay. When I was like, I look like Steven Crowder. Oh God, it's so embarrassing.
Yo.
Not even like the embarrassing that I was trying to satirize, but like just the way I looked. That's from like 2013, I think.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do like a satirical bro show, but also like, you know, try to crack jokes, but also like cover the news and stuff too. But very quickly I was like, this is not, like, this sucks.
Yeah.
And then we deleted them, and then people resurfaced them, and they always love bringing it up to be like, see, you used to say that And I'm
Yeah,
like, yeah, I mean, I'm pretty open about it. Like I definitely was like way more misogynistic. I used to definitely have transphobic takes.
Yeah.
Like, and
That's what I was referring to, because I saw that.
But that wasn't like
They
that
call
wasn't
that
because like
base
I
today,
wanted
you know?
to. Oh, okay, that's what you
Yeah.
meant when you said base.
Yeah.
No, I didn't like become more cognizant of like the media environment. Like I organically became less transphobic.
Yeah.
I met trans people. I started questioning why I care so much about trans people. That was like, I think that was one of the major things for me, was like, what the do I care about this? Like, I don't really understand why this is like something that I should even worry about. Like, whatever, let people do whatever they want. And I think that's like, that was the spark in my brain. But it wasn't like it wasn't a deliberate attempt or anything. It was just like an organic thing.
Yeah, organic evolution.
Yeah. But
So-
in terms of like saying more left that
Yeah.
I suspect people don't like, in terms of like, saying we shouldn't be involved in, bombing the global south and things like that. I think I'm much more.
But is that really a
open.
left take?
Yeah, it's the OG left take.
But I feel like everyone like doesn't want war.
Yeah, well,
Except obviously the people that benefit from it greatly.
yeah, everyone doesn't want war, or at least like people claim that they don't want war, but you know who wants war? Politicians want war. So
Yeah.
I think like there's a lot of people on the right and the left who are like, yeah, why the are we giving like, let's say Israel $16 billion? Like,
Yeah.
why can't we help homeless people? Or why can't we fix the potholes on the streets? And that's a pretty normal position. It's just it's not reflected in either party, really. Democrats historically used to at least offer lip service to that sentiment. But post 9/11, both parties are like, no, we have to do war all the time, stupid.
But it just sucks because like the more I get into politics is because like I felt like in the last few years I just couldn't avoid it.
Mm-hmm.
The more I'm just like, does this ever really change? It just seems like a cycle of like, especially now with the not necessarily you specifically, but the social ecosystem that's created around now politics, where it's like anyone will say anything to get some sort of sensational response, where it's like they can say something about whether it's trans people or gay people or black people or some racist thing. It's like people do this now, and whether there's any ounce of merit to it, which in most cases there's zero, but it's like they do it now because the algorithm, the likes, the
for sure.
views. And Twitter's become a place where I'm like, man, what the fuck is going on here?
Yeah.
Because I remember last time we talked, I was like, I love Twitter. I do love Twitter.
Yeah, I definitely, last time we talked, I definitely love Twitter too. More than I do now, for sure. Or unless you mean like last time we talked on my stream.
No.
Like the last time I was on your pod, back then I used to get quote unquote canceled all the time on Twitter.
Yeah.
But it was ultimately meaningless, but it was, I think, more fun.
Whatever happened, I don't know if I don't know if you've ever spoken about this, so maybe I'm beating a dead horse here, but whatever happened with you and Ethan, like, because you guys had that show, The Leftovers, right?
Yeah. I mean, I've talked about it a little bit. I'm sure he'll see this clip and get like really mad. But honestly, I think we just had like some, at the time, what I thought were minor disagreements. And I never really like paid attention to what he was saying.
About content?
No, about Israel.
Okay,
about Israel-Palestine.
Yeah.
In the aftermath of October 7. But he'd always been like very pro-Palestine.
But you guys stopped way before that.
No, we stopped.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What the
We
fuck?
stopped like around October. That's when we were like, we're not doing leftovers anymore.
Okay.
So, October 2023 is like, I think one of the last episodes we did.
Yeah.
And initially, I think there was a lot of people that were very mad at Ethan, both in my community and also, more importantly, his own community, because he's very progressive.
Yeah.
And a lot of people that he cultivated in his audience were like not really with his takes. Like they didn't really like it.
Yeah.
And I think because there was also anti-Semitism rising at the time, like he saw that as a major point of concern, understandable. And I assume, I can't know what's in his mind, but I assume that he was like making the assertion that these people that were mad at him all the time weren't mad because they were seeing clips and making up their own minds, but mad for some other reason, either because they were anti-Semitic or because like someone was priming them to be mad at him. And since our communities had merged at that time, because of leftovers to a certain degree, I think he thought that like my takes were what was causing people to like hate him for what he was saying. And because it's such a touchy subject for a lot of people for understandable reasons, I mean, people are very black and white. And when they hear Ethan say something that like, Joe Biden has said about Israel-Palestine, and they don't investigate it any further, yeah, of course, they're going to be like, oh, fuck you, you're pro-Israel and you're hiding it. You know what I mean? That's like the immediate assertion. And for a year after that, I think that this was on the spot, for the record. Is that Israel flag socks? No, dude, they're fucking Nike. What the hell's wrong with you? I think, although this is like, I think this is a consistent take that I've held here. I suspect that people will probably get mad at me for even saying this, like for even mentioning Ethan, which, there's not really much I can do. I was asked directly. It wasn't like, I didn't think that Bradley would ask me that, but I'm not going to shy away from I'm not going to shy away from responding.
I didn't really investigate what his perspective was. We had a conversation, like last one we had was on my channel where we had a back and forth and we had some disagreements, but we were on good terms for a year after that, pretty much. And then recently, I forget what it was. I think it was after Israel like decided to invade Lebanon, where I was talking about Hezbollah, which is the militant group in Lebanon. It's the Shia militant group. It's a part of the parliament as well. It's classified by the American government as a state terrorist organization. Not every country considers them to be a state terrorist organization, and they're a part of the Lebanese parliament, ultimately, right? Like they're a political party.
Yeah.
And they're effectively the standing military of Lebanon. But it is controversial ultimately, even within Lebanon. So I was talking to a friend of mine, and I said something like, I don't have any problems with Hezbollah in terms of like their resistance to the state of Israel. I think like this isn't about their, sectarian politics, or this isn't about like their internal affair. Like I don't give a shit.
Right.
Because that's not the reason why Israel is bombing Lebanon. They're bombing Lebanon because Hezbollah is retaliating against Israel for what Israel's doing in Gaza.
Right.
And he saw that, and I think that was what triggered him into, like, that was a trigger point where he was like, you're a radical. And then it spiraled out of control. I think he has done numerous streams at that point, like for months and months on end, all the way up until the election where he was like trying to get me deplatformed.
This is what I was saying. That's why we spoke about being censored more.
Yeah.
For you, because I saw that on like something with Twitch, and people then blaming you for like ad revenue and like
that was another community that also has been always off my. This Destiny's community, and they've always done the concern trolling where they're like he'll say some on him all the time, like he's debated child pornography, you know what I mean? Like he's debated.
How do you debate?
I don't know, but he's done it anyway. Like these guys don't have any boundaries, right? But then they will so very easily portray themselves like liberals or a concern.
As an anti-Zio Jew, here's my take. I think Ethan did not fully unpack his Zionist mindset framework, so he would repeat Zionist talking points, leading the people to call him a Zionist. He doesn't identify as one, though, and he refuses to unpack those talking points as false, so he thinks people are calling him a Zionist simply because he's Jewish and not because he's repeating Zionist talking points. I think that there is some truth to what you're saying, but ultimately, I think like he got so negatively polarized that I don't even know what his attitude is now. And I truly don't know. I actually don't know. I know people will say like, oh, bro, all it would take is for you to watch one of his videos and you'd understand. But ultimately, like there's a couple moments of like very stubborn pushback where like I wasn't immediately dismissive, but if it was something that I did not know, if it was someone that I had no idea about, I would just write them off entirely. Like if I didn't know their background, if I didn't have personal connection to them, if I wasn't friends with them, right, at a certain point, I'd be like, the fuck are you saying? You guys should just talk it out. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not opposed to that at all. But you have to understand something, okay? Before Chatter says no, before Chatter's like starts screaming no, this is post like Ethan trying to deplatform me actively by saying some of the most like hurtful, unhinged things, okay? Like you have to understand, like when you're relying on a website called HasanAbi.com, like unlisted YouTube clips from my own personal supercharged snark community, Destiny's community, where you're using unlisted links, and the title of the unlisted YouTube clip is literally HasanAbi, without ever considering what that looks like to other people that might not even know me. People that might not know me, people that are fans of yours that now have a very weird attitude, a very gross attitude. It's like, I don't use the Islamophobia card quite frequently, but that is fairly Islamophobic. Sam Cedar had a good take on this phenomena. As the atrocities of Israel become more and more apparent, people who grew up thinking of Israel as a positive force in the world will go to extreme lengths to cope with that contradiction. Yeah, I know. That's why I also said that he should talk to Sam Cedar. Like I privately texted him to say, hey, I don't think you respect me, but you respect Sam. So I think you should talk to him privately, publicly, it doesn't matter, And
they do that very well. So they started this like mass emailing campaign in their Discord to like openly, actively brigade everywhere and take like a year's worth of clips that they had clipped out of context for one whole year. Like Israel starts bombing Gaza and these motherfuckers are like, all right, what's Hasan saying? Let's start clipping.
Yeah. And
they had it on a website called like HasanAbi. They're calling me like HasanAbi.
Yeah.
And they just had all these clips and they were like going to They spent spam emails to like advertisers. Like I went to USC because they wanted me to speak at the college.
Yeah.
And I was like, sure, I'll do it. Why not? They sent 27,000 emails to USC to try to get me not speak at USC. And it's really interesting because like in the email, I saw the email that they were spamming. And the email was like, he got banned off Twitch for saying a racial slur, which is true. I did.
What was the slur?
Cracker.
Oh.
But they didn't put that in the email. So they were trying to make it seem like I was this like crazy racist guy, right? And, you know, it's a fairly sophisticated mass brigading campaign. And it didn't really work, but they got some advertisers, I think, like were scared. Bloomberg wrote a report on it.
Yeah.
Some advertisers were like, well, we don't want to be associated with anything that's controversial. And but at the time they were like claiming that, you know, every advertiser is pulling out of Twitch. Twitch is having an adpocalypse. And Ethan at that same time was also like, you know, kind of egging that on a little bit, where he was like, these guys are really anti-Semitic. They're really radical. They're anti-American scum. That
but I don't understand
this
this anti-Semitic conversation is like, if you just say anything that's against what they're doing in Israel, just you're anti-Semitic.
Yeah, I mean, there's more nuance to it than that, because like,
it's what it, from my perspective from the outside, it's what it looks like when I see stuff.
No, I understand that. I mean, that's like the average position at this point. And I think that, yes, it is, for the longest time, Israel, both positively and negatively, has been associated with Judaism. It's not a proper conflation. It's false. Saudi Arabia, it does not represent like the entirety of Islam, and Israel does not represent the entirety of Judaism.
Right.
But if every single person that goes on television is saying like, this is the Jewish nation, like, how dare you, you're being anti-Semitic, then yeah, of course people go, okay, maybe it is. Maybe everything they're doing for Judaism, and all the Jews love this, when it's not the case. I mean, there's like a classic old Jewish saying, it's like 2 Jews, 3 arguments, where it's like, there's no full-blown, comprehensive, monolithic understanding of what Israel is and what it's supposed to be among American Jews, especially. That's not like a real collective ideal at all. But it's presented that way. It's presented that way by people who hate Jews, who want to say, you know, fuck Israel. They're doing this for Jews. This is how Jews are. And it's also being said by people who are pro-Israel and also themselves Jewish, or just pro-Israel and pro-Jewish. Like Jake Tapper says that. Like, I don't think Jake Tapper is secretly a neo-Nazi or something, but he's saying that because it's been a very apt way to deflect criticism, because nobody wants to be offensive, especially in progressive circles. You don't want to be offensive. You don't want to be a mean person. You don't want to offend people. You don't want to be called an anti-Semite. So you're like, whoa, okay, I didn't realize it was like that. It's usually just a way to stop the conversation dead in its tracks.
But so that's interesting though. That
Ethan said on this pod that you were pro October 7. See, that's what I mean. It's like, if you're look, there's a lot of Ethan haters in this community, okay, especially now. But like, if you're an Ethan fan at this point and you're watching me and you hear the way I talk about Ethan, and then you go back and listen to the way Ethan talks about me, I think that there isn't a parity there. Okay? Like, that's it. And I'm not doing that for aesthetic purposes. Like, it is truly just the way I operate. Okay? That's what it is. There is no, like, there's no respect on one side of this equation. It's asymmetrical. Any kind of self-defense is considered the most morally repugnant thing that I could ever do. But Ethan can say whatever the fuck he wants, including playing games that were made by Destiny's community that liken me to fucking Osama bin Laden. Or even claim that I've like hid my more radical perspectives, when the first conversation I ever had with Ethan and Gila was on their podcast before we even started our podcast, where I basically described the steps in which 9/11 happened when addressing my America Deserved 9/11 comment. And he was understanding, because the thing that left from this equation is respect and charity. Okay. And if you look back at the past year before Ethan went on this conquest to like deplatform me and other pro-Palestinian content creators by falsely smearing us as anti-Semitic, akin to neo-Nazis or whatever, by grabbing onto anything and everything they could on both Ethan and also Destiny and shit. And especially when like Ethan already has a fuck ton of haters. Like, I could have just gotten on the fuck Ethan train. You know what I mean? Oh, Leftovers podcast ended because Ethan and I had disagreements on Israel-Palestine because he's a huge Zionist. Like, I could have done all of that. You know what I mean? That would have been, I'd probably be getting fucking celebrated by Keemstar at that point in the way that Ethan is getting celebrated by Keemstar now. The difference is I don't give a shit about that. I don't think that that's a productive way to approach anything. So he just completely decided to cut off all charitability and all respect and just go on this endless conquest. They're going to clip that. Yeah, they can if they want to. But my point is, I didn't do that because I don't believe that. That's not how I operate. And that's not what I think is like appropriate. Okay? I don't think it's appropriate. And that's my criticism of what Ethan has been doing, which is the inverse of that, the opposite of that. He pulled the fuck Hasan ripcord like he was just holding on to dear life, you know? For a year, I defended him against people in my community that were very upset with some of the things that he was saying. Not really fully paying attention to everything he was saying, but still. And that was because I don't think it was appropriate or productive to just like turn around and just be like, yeah, fuck this guy or whatever. It's stupid. But after all of that, he still turned around and was like, Hasan is a fucking radical terrorism supporter. Like, that's crazy. At first, it was hurtful. And now it's just like, I don't even know what to say, you know? One of his biggest gripes is you never addressed the points he made in his call-out video of you, not realizing you have indeed addressed them in numerous ways. That wasn't just watching his hit piece. I know. I don't know why he thinks like if I watched the hit piece silly compilation they put together through like with Destiny moderators, somehow magically, you know, the world would come to peace or some shit. And yeah, the time frame where he did that was also not beneficial nor productive, and it was very silly. It was so drama laden when a genocide was ongoing, and the genocide is still ongoing, but at least I have more time now.
That's like an interesting point where like why would certain conversations need to be just killed dead in their tracks?
Well, because I mean, it's kindness first and foremost. It's because people don't want to be.
Look here, Bradley asked me like, he asked me a leading question, right? Where he's like, why do you think people are so scared of, why do you think people are so scared of being inappropriate or whatever, right? And because he's just trying to say like, you know, woke people want to silence opposition or whatever. I think that's what he's trying to get.
Interesting though. That's like an interesting point where like why would certain conversations need to be just killed dead in their tracks?
Well, because I mean, it's kindness first and foremost. It's because people don't want to be a fucking asshole. I don't want to be an asshole, even though I am, right? But I think that's where it comes from. You don't want to be like a rude person. Maybe you do, I don't know. But most people, I think, don't want to be impolite. And if they don't have all the information, then yeah, they're going to trust you. They're going to take your word for it. If someone that you trust and like tells you Israel is the Jewish nation state, no Jew would ever be safe if it wasn't for Israel, which Joe Biden has said, you know? Yeah. When someone that you trust says that, you're going to be like, okay, well, I guess that's the case then. I'm not going to think about it any further. I don't fucking know. It's a country over there, far away from me. So most people just don't really think about it any further, and then don't necessarily try to understand the full dynamic of the situation.
Yeah. As far as, I guess it's interesting to me because you sort of had this like falling out with, you know, not necessarily falling out, but you had this falling out issue. Whatever you just basically explained with Ethan. Yeah. And like the left sort of commentating because you didn't agree.
I have covered Israelism, by the way,
with what they were saying. It kind of comes to what's going on right now with the right. It's really interesting to watch. But this whole conversation about the H-1B visas and like Elon Musk talking on Twitter and Vivek Ramaswamy talking on Twitter and all these people like chiming in and kind of like somewhat attacking each other. And I know they're enjoying that.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love when right-wing infighting happens because it's like, it's rare. The left loves eating itself alive. Yeah. I mean, I get canceled all the time. It's not fucking real, but people yell at me all the time. They call me misogynistic, transphobic, racist, white supremacist. And then on the other side, everyone on the right calls me a pussy, soy for fucking defending marginalized people. You know what I mean? So, but the left loves doing that shit to itself. The right normally is pretty unified. Yeah. They're like, it almost feels like, you know, as long as we're fucking owning the libs, whatever that is, you know, we're good. We're good. We're on board.
So it's come from what? Basically the base, the Republican base for the most part, speaking out on behalf and kind of like seemingly or believing they're voting for basically a group of Republicans that are going to make America and put America first, right? And then it's interesting because then, you know, Elon is basically saying like, yeah, we need these foreign workers. It's been a thing. And then everyone's attacking him because they're like, wait, what about all the people who, you know, could have or could get the jobs here?
It's a tough argument to sell to people on Twitter, especially when you got like what, hundreds of thousands of tech layoffs and you got American workers like training their H-1B visa foreign counterparts. I'm an advocate for immigration. There's enough money to go around, certainly. And, you know, there's endless potential everywhere, whether it's coming from India, China, or whether it's coming from an underserved neighborhood in the United States of America, whether it be some fucking West Virginia slum or Southside Chicago, there's a lot of unlimited potential out there that we have not even tapped into. So I don't necessarily care about those sorts of things. Like in terms of immigrants coming in, I'm a fucking immigrant. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm an American citizen. I'm an anchor baby, but I'm my father recently became an American citizen. So
my family would have been immigrants, you know, so.
What?
I'm Italian, so they were immigrants.
Well, there you go. So, but that's everybody. Everybody in America is, unless you're Native American, you can trace your lineage back to a point where you weren't on this fucking continent.
Right.
So, and there's always historically been resistance against newcomers anyway. When Italians came in, they were treated like shit. When the Irish came in, they were treated like shit. It's always resistance towards whoever's coming in. The people that are there already are like, nah, fuck these guys.
Yeah.
And then, you know, after some time passes, there's some growing pains, and then people are like, all right, never mind. These guys are cool. It's fine.
Yeah.
And you don't even think about it now. Like, it's not even a thing. If you were to be like, yeah, the Irish are not white, people look at you like, what the fuck are you saying?
Yeah.
So that's normal, and it's historically happened in America over and over again. And right now, it's happening towards people coming in from Latin America, and also certainly now for the Twitter people,
India.
Yeah. But on the other hand, the reason why Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy want H-1B visa workers is because they can exploit them better.
Lower wages, right?
Yeah.
I was looking all over Twitter. You see all the sort of the people in Tesla, the people who they have like lists and lists of people who are these H-1B visa workers that are, I guess, I mean, I see the salaries, they're large, but apparently they'd be more large.
Yeah. No, it'd be at the minimum, it's like 20% cheaper.
And I understand, obviously,
because there's a currency exchange, right? If you're sending money back to your family and you come from a country where there's like a currency exchange rate that favors, you know, the American dollar,
right?
That's automatically, you're like, yeah, I'll take a 20% pay cut. I don't give a fuck. And on top of that, you get to work towards earning a citizenship in the United States of America. Maybe bring your family here. So yeah, you're going to be very excited at the prospect. But more importantly, it's an additional pressure, because if you lose your job, then you're back. You're done. Yeah. You're out. You're deported. Meanwhile, there is already pre-existing pressures for American citizens to retain those jobs as well.
Right.
What do we got? In order to be able to get to those jobs, you have to go to college. College is $100,000 to $200,000 now. You got to take on student loan debts.
Yeah.
When you take those student loan debts, you have to pay off those debts. So then you take a job that you normally wouldn't take, and you just take it, and you gladly try to keep it to the best of your ability. You're vulnerable already. Another pressure for American citizens is healthcare. We don't have free healthcare in this country, unlike every other fucking comparable OECD nation, right? It's not like the Canadians are super woke or socialist or anything, or better than us, right? They're not.
I've heard issues with free health. Not obviously, I understand like your point to have it, but there's also other issues that come along with it being free too, where it's like I know people in Canada who can't even get anything done for 7 months.
So those issues are almost always as a direct consequence of underfunding. Politicians in countries like that, right-wing politicians, because they have right-wing, left-wing dynamics as well, like in the UK, for example, will systematically underfund healthcare deliberately. They do that so it's shit. They do that so it's understaffed, and the hospitals look like dog shit, and there's not enough doctors and nurses, and the wages are low for the doctors and nurses. So when they fight back and demand higher wages, they're like, oh, we don't have money. Sorry. And then they turn around and go, we got to privatize this. They do that because they want to privatize it. They underfund it, and then they privatize it. They privatize certain aspects of it, and inevitably the entire thing becomes private.
Yeah.
That's the ultimate goal for them. And at that point, you turn into the United States of America.
So from your perspective, like, how do you actually fix this? Because it just seems like you obviously have people on one end who are like, you know, working hard to grow a business, and they feel like, well, I don't want to pay for other people's shit. Right. Mm-hmm. That's like the whole beef with it.
You're always paying for other people's shit.
No,
that's
I'm aware of it. I pay a fuck ton of taxes.
Yeah. And that's the thing though. Like I know I'm unique in this, and people get mad at me for even saying this, but like, I don't have a problem paying taxes. It sucks that like it goes to, I don't know, murdering children in Gaza, a big chunk of it, and not to fixing the fucking potholes. But at the end of the day, even if a percentage of it is going to the teachers, if a percentage is going to the schools, then I'm like, yeah, you got to do that. And I think that is, unfortunately, that's not a very commonly held perspective, because so much of our taxes go to like irrelevant shit that only benefits the corporations and you know, the super wealthy.
So that's the really big overarching thing is like, how do we ever fix something that is just so money driven? I mean, it's just, you know, even this
being counseled by the Lev is like my 4-year-old child telling me they're going to call the police when she didn't get her way. It usually ends up with a lot of stomping up and down, having a fit in the end. They just look stupid. I mean, yeah, that's because the left is institutionally powerless. The right, on the other hand, does have power. I mean, the left is not broadly represented by the Democratic Party in the way that like the far right absolutely is represented by the Republican Party. So much so that like we're even having this H-1B visa debate. It's not a debate at all for the average Republican. The average Republican doesn't give a shit, okay? They don't care. They don't understand it. They don't care. They could, if they heard about it enough, maybe they could develop an opinion on it. But as long as Fox News goes, Donald Trump said H-1B visas are good, and they repeat that, ultimately, the right is going to go, yeah, we agree with that. Whereas like even the far right is going to ultimately agree with that. Whereas with respect to the actual leftist movement or people who find themselves homeless within the Democratic Party, like the Democratic Party doesn't even try to lean in to a progressive point of view. They actively and desperately try to present themselves as anything but that. They don't shy away from presenting leftists as an enemy. They openly spend time shitting on the left. You don't ever hear Republicans go, wow, this is so completely unacceptable. This is so completely unacceptable. The right-wing position, the neo-Nazis are out of control. Like, you never hear that from the Republicans. Can you explain how you seem to be hand-waving the H-1B abuse situation? This is affecting 500,000 people per year and driving wages down. How is this a leftist position to disregard these workers? At what point did I say that I disregard these workers? I always have repeated the notion that the best way, the best process to ensure that there's like still empathetic immigration in general is wage parity initiatives. Can you explain this argument that you didn't make that I made up in my head that you were deflecting away from, even though you very clearly and very openly, very deliberately have described that position? After a 64-month subscriber, I have been in here numerous times, know your fucking perspective. You came across saying it was immigration, but it seems to be more corporate abuse. Wait, okay. You not, I guess, hearing certain parts of my argument doesn't change my argument. Just go back and re-listen then. I've done multiple videos on it at this point. This is why being a leftist is so fucking stupid. Like, grifting to the left is stupid, by the way. Because there's a 64-month subscriber in here that's like, hey man, I'm gonna fucking be as cynical to your takes as a person who has hated you for 5 years, not a person who has financially supported your broadcast for the past 5 years. People will say this and be like, I didn't watch the stream, but I watched that bot clip channel that clips everything out of context. Yeah, what the fuck? Like, come on, chatter. Charity, please. Be charitable. Take a deep breath and reconsider. I'm saying it's corporate abuse. Why don't you zero in on that point on the podcast instead of making it about immigration? I'm not being cynical. I'm saying the point should be redirected to corporations, not an immigration issue. Oh my God. I did talk about that. Either I haven't finished the point yet and I haven't gotten to it, or I did. I remember talking about it and I've talked about it a million times over. What the fuck is wrong with you? You think I'm secretly not invested in American labor all of a sudden? What are you talking about, man? God.
Conversation about the visas. It's about being able to get the wage here.
I want to look up this chatter's 64-month subscriber. I'm going to look up your comments. If I catch you in any number of different days over this past week where I was directly talking about this issue, if I catch you fucking commenting on any of those other days, then you have literally no reason to assume that I don't talk about that. So there's got to be a different reason for why you are so fucking uncharitable, okay? H-1B. So you have heard me talk about it from the framework of corporate abuse and why it's beneficial for billionaires and why they love it. Brother, I'm not saying you're not. I'm saying from the POV of a pod viewer.
To have the leverage of the people that are, needing to be here at that.
By the way, ironically, this is the moment. Like, chatter is chirping at me pre-firing. And it's literally the moment where I'm talking about how it's corporate abuse. Now, take a deep breath and re-examine why you fucking pre-fired. Oh God, we're getting botted on fucking New Year's too. Jesus Christ, look at this shit.
That certain wage have to do it, because if they don't, they got to go back home. They also make way more money here than they would there. So then it makes sense for the corporation to be like, yeah, of course we want that guy because we can pay him less. And he has to
doing the same job. He's doing more. He's doing more than the American citizen.
Like, that chatter was chirping at me while I was literally talking about how H-1B visas are utilized by capital owners as a additional mechanism of abuse. I also talked about the different vectors of pressure that make the American natural-born citizen, a working class, also susceptible to exploitation. And then the H-1B visa process makes it even easier to exploit migrants because now they'll get fucking deported. And that chatter was yelling at me about me not mentioning that while I'm in the process of mentioning that.
I think that is, unfortunately, that's not a very commonly held perspective because so much of our taxes go to like irrelevant shit that
The really big overarching thing is like, how do we ever fix something that is just so money driven? I mean, it just, even this conversation about the visas, it's about being able to get the wage here, to have the leverage of the people that are, needing to be here at that certain wage have to do it, because if they don't, they got to go back home.
Happy
they also
New Year,
make way more
Austin.
money here than they would there. So then it makes sense for the corporation to be like, yeah, of course we want that guy because we can pay him less, and he has to
he's doing
work
the same job. He's doing more. He's doing more than the American citizen because, and Elon did this with Twitter. He went to Twitter and he fired 50% of the staff, right? Immediately, day one. He fired all those people. The only employees he retained, he kept, were H-1B visa workers. Why did he do that? Because those guys, if they get fired, they're going to get deported. So now you can force those guys to fucking stay there all day, every day, sleep at the office. They're basically indentured servants. That's what Elon Musk wants. That's what wealthy people want. They want to be able to.
Are you happy, Chatter, 64-month subscriber? Or are you going to triple down now and say, well, you didn't get to it fast enough in order to maintain the position that you were right and I was wrong all along? Not only are you wrong, but I want you to use this as a learning opportunity. I know it sounds fucking silly. Probably sounds like patronizing for me to just take a deep breath and demand that you do the same, okay, and reconsider. But what led you to be so initially cynical? What led you to be so initially cynical? Because this is something that a lot of people do on the left, okay?
Get the most amount of time and productivity out of each individual employee. And the more vulnerable you are, the fear of deportation, the easier it is for your boss to turn around and be like, all right, I'm calling you up at 10 p.m. on a Friday afternoon. Oh, you got a fucking family emergency? You better get your ass in the office right now. I got a problem. If you say that to an American citizen will be like, no.
Yeah.
you
So
know?
you don't think there's any merit to at least what Vivek was trying to say as far as the culture of America and there not being this work ethic. And he was kind of talking about the whole which I found really funny. The
nerds and the jocks.
The nerds and the jocks.
Yeah, he was like, oh, I didn't get enough pussy in high school, so that's the reason why Americans are getting too much pussy. They're focusing on, they're venerating jocks instead of venerating nerds. It's like, no, that's just, he's a fucking nerd. And that's why he's saying that.
The thing that I wish Elon would have led with was he, after the whole shitstorm, he started to respond to people and was like, oh, there should be this we should fix this system as well. And then we should have a sort of a minimum or so that it's.
The reason I said that message was because you were only focusing on STEM. My point was it was widespread and everyone should be concerned. It's not a gotcha. Just saying you brought it up as immigration before mentioning corporate abuse and laying off workers, which I believe is more important with respect to this issue. I mean, my bad for not having future sight hockey. Dude, I'm not saying you should have future sight hockey. You literally also said you seem to be hand waving the H-1B abuse situation. Don't act like you literally are saying that I am directly at odds with leftist ideology, with leftist position. I can see your fucking chat. That's what started this process. You being a 64-month subscriber and coming in fucking hot like that. This is not a moment of debate, dude. This is supposed to be a moment of self-reflection for you. Okay? Don't try to fucking hand wave that by being like, no, I meant something broader than what you had brought up. God damn, dude. My question is, how can you be a fucking 64-month subscriber and be this uncharitable? Because you focused on immigration first rather than the workers who got laid off, brother? Yeah. There's a reason why I'm doing what I'm doing and you're watching, okay? I know how to communicate these things. Sorry. Holy fuck. I can't believe you're trying to backseat my fucking podcast appearance here. Jesus Christ. And you're still trying to debate. Yeah, I think it was the right thing to do because focusing on immigration first and foremost is the right thing to do in that situation because the overwhelming majority of right-wingers don't give a fuck about the actual wages, okay? They just, the ones on Twitter at least that Bradley's talking about care because those guys are Indian, all right? That's why I said, and also very clearly and very deliberately, openly stated that we are all descendants of immigrants. I don't have an issue with immigration, but here's how this process is weaponized by corporations. And now we're having an aesthetic conversation, a back and forth, because you were wrong. You were wrong and you were incredibly cynical. So the question for you remains, why were you so cynical? Why do you think that I was like not actually behaving in a manner consistent with my worldview that you should be aware of? Okay. And I addressed literally everything. And you're still tripling, quadrupling down by trying to find another thing that you can hold on to. It's okay. When I'm wrong, I fucking say I'm wrong. And it's not about taking an L or something like that. This is not a contest. I just want to make sure that people don't do this in my community, especially. Be more charitable. I expect charity from random people. How the fuck can I expect that if I can't even get it from people that have been in here for literally years? Okay? I wasn't saying that to antagonize. I was asking intellectually to learn from your thoughts on why you brought it up first. Brother, you literally said, or sister, you literally said, can you explain why you seem to be hand-waving the H-1B abuse situation? This is affecting 500,000 people a year, driving wages down. How is this a leftist position to disregard these workers? And then I tried to explain it to you, and you said you came across saying it was immigration, but it seems to be more corporate abuse. That's not just, you're asking to antagonize, okay? And it's fine. You did it. It's okay. It's all right. I don't hate you. I'm not mad at you. I just want you to, I just want you to be more normal. Okay. That's it.
It's the same if they hire these people or as far as like the immigrants or if they hire American workers.
Yeah, if they had wage parity.
That's kind of what he was going toward. He started talking about that like kind of after the shitstorm had.
He would never in a million years look for that because then that's profit margins. That's hurting his profits. That's hurting his bottom line. He relies on H-1B visa workers. I don't trust super wealthy people, billionaires, millionaires.
What if they do change that? Will you say sorry to Elon?
You sure? I'd be shocked. Yeah. Because I'm of the mindset that these guys will say anything and everything as long as you're not focusing on the actual pressure points, as long as you're not focusing on who's fucking you over, who's robbing you blind, they're good. They're like, yeah, we should do price parity. They're never going to do that, but they'll say it.
Yeah.
That's
what I'm saying. Like it just...
And it's the Democrats too, by the way. Don't get me wrong.
Right,
like, I don't think the Democrats want to fix this shit either.
Government and politicians in general. I just wonder, like, does it ever actually become what you think it could be to be better, right? Because it just seems like we live in this world where it's just constant more, get more, take more, grow, profit margin, shareholders, like, and that controls this whole entire fucking nation and the world.
It seems like you're describing capitalism right now.
Yeah, but I mean, it's in a sense, yeah, but it's like not even in a sense directly, but
no, that is what it is.
But that's the world. It's not like that's just going to disappear.
No, I mean, look, I'm a firm believer that is not like inherent in human nature.
Brad cracks me up. He bounces between there's no way to fix this and what if this crazy thing that will never happen happens, Lamau? Yeah.
Sure. You can be greedy. You can be selfish. You can be personally interested. But that doesn't automatically mean that we are also not social animals that constantly collaborate.
This is a good take. My take is that grifters, be it Fox News, The Daily Wire, politicians, or drama content creators, successfully weaponize people's pain and misery, redirecting those frustrations in the form of targeted cynicism, harassment, etc., at the expense of individuals based on identity analysis instead of systems on the basis of material analysis. You cooked, RavXO. You're right. That's precisely what happens every single time.
That constantly work with one another and do it in like very invisible ways. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to always be pure profit driven. And that's not like some
ways. What do you mean by that?
Well, what I mean by that is like, there are additional motivators beyond making money that you engage in. You don't work out every single day because you want to make more money. The more muscle mass you put on, the more money you make. That's not a direct, that's not a direct reason, right? You do it for yourself. You do it for self-improvement. This is something you care about. Same with me, right? Sure. The way we look definitely play into the way the audience receives us. And, maybe it allows more people to listen to what you have to say or whatever. Right. But ultimately, there's a secondary reason for that. Perhaps even a more important reason for that. And we do stuff like that all the time. There are additional motivators beyond profit that cause people to innovate, right? That cause people to do stuff. That cause people to collaborate with one another, problem solving. It's not always at the behest of the almighty dollar. We're not always, like, I'll give you examples of massive scientific, like in the field of medical research, there are so many innovative products that have come out. These guys didn't do it because they wanted to make money. They did it because they wanted to save lives. Like the guy who invented insulin in Canada, he sold the patent for $1. Now you got to pay fucking $1,000 to purchase it because a company bought the patent and then denied people the access to this life-saving medication that this guy fucking found and was like, I want people to be able to have this. Like, this is crazy. People should be able to have this. This is like going to save people's lives. This is awesome. He did that collaboratively with a whole bunch of other people. Not a single person involved in that was like, think about all the money we're going to be making. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's always the dudes in suits that make the money afterwards. And they make it seem as though everyone only cares about money. Now, this doesn't mean that people don't care about money at all. Of course, everybody cares about money. You know, I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, money isn't everything. When you don't have it, it is everything.
Right.
I've been there. I know. You know, it's very important. It's freedom. Having said that, I think there is a very different mentality that a lot of people have, especially at the top of society. You know, people who are corporate executive CEOs, where they care almost exclusively about like endless expansion, profits over everything. Whereas I don't think the average person operates like that. I think the average person is trained to think like that is something that they're invested in, but deep down inside, like most people just want to be comfortable. They want to be able to have, you know, stupid.
Happy.
They want to be happy. They want to be comfortable. They want to have a roof over their heads. They want a fucking nice meal, get some pussy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you know, have children, whatever the fuck they want to do. Play Marvel Rivals.
Yeah.
You know, have some free time.
So good,
have
dude.
some fucking free time for yourself, right?
But it just seems like it's so vast and it's so structured and it's so built already. There's no escaping it.
Yeah. Mark Fisher once said, it's easier to imagine the end of the world than imagining the end of capitalism. And it's true. I mean, we have, how many dystopian movies are out there, the world ending?
Yeah.
How many fucking movies are out there where
man.
there's, you know, we've moved beyond capitalism? Star Trek is like the only example I can think of. So it's true. It's like deeply ingrained in our understanding. We think it's like human nature that like everyone is endlessly selfish and endlessly greedy. Conservatives always talk about the family. There's no profit motive in the family. You know, the family unit has nothing to do with profits at all. It's about taking care of your own. It's about taking care of your friends. And I think that we can expand on that, taking care of your communities. And you know, plenty of people have that attitude as well as the self-interest. And I think there needs to be a better balance of that. And right now the balance is tilted on the selfish profit side of things.
But that's my question: is how do you even make a balance like that? Like, do you think it just takes more people speaking like this?
I think that plays a role in it for sure.
Because like just speaking about something like that's something like I'll see where, you know, I even saw some tweet you made about the elites and you got a response from a bunch of like
conservatives.
You know,
yeah, they loved it, which
yeah.
is surprising because I was talking about like how they've destroyed public education.
Yeah. Yeah. And so the response, so Mike made a comment basically, it's like, everyone's just gonna go back to talking about whatever, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
And like, that's how it feels. That's how all this stuff feels, where it's like, there's these like super pain points and these issues. And then people just go back to like, all right, well, where else can I make money?
We're easily distracted, especially with social media too. Like where I think back in the day, like shit would just be important for like a month. And now it's like 12 hours and then you're done. Right.
Yeah.
Like,
but it's another cog. I mean, social media is another cog in that, you know, getting money.
No, for sure. I think money, attention, clout, admiration, there are definitely other motivators beyond money as well. But yeah, I mean, people can't stand on one issue and really hyper focus on it. But having said that,
like, would you do what you do if you made no money? If you were able to,
I did do what I was doing when I made no money.
Me too.
Yeah.
Not on social, because I was just, I mean, as far as being a gym bro and like training and talking about what I was doing, that's something I did.
But even politics, like this is something that I was truly fascinated by and something that I wanted to, like my opinions, I wanted to share with other people. So yeah, and this is something that I was definitely interested in. And I mean, for the longest time, it's not like I had this like massive audience or a shit ton of money. Like I didn't, but I still did it. And I had virtually the same fucking opinions I do now. That's why you can go back. I always say like, you can go back to like any video from like 2016, 2017, and I'm literally talking about the same issues and I'm saying the same things.
And you were always kind of a gym bro, because I remember, I think when I first had met you, I looked back on my DMs because I was a gym bro making gym content, and you would message me about like workout shit.
Yeah.
It was so funny because I went back and I looked at our DMs.
Oh, really?
I even remember you were like, I responded, it must have been years later, and you were like, fuck, I messaged you in 2016. You're
That's
like,
crazy.
it's so embarrassing.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
but congrats,
I mean,
congrats on what you've done. For real.
Thank you. Well, I lost a lot of weight and then I gained it back in COVID. It was messed up. I was so depressed, dude. Like last time we did this podcast, I was still pretty fat. Yeah. Like last time when we had a lean beef patty at my house, like I was so fat even then, but I was at least like I was like more regimented at that point. And like finally I'm back to a very comfortable place now.
Yeah.
And dude, that stuff I can't speak enough on, honestly. It's just like it really changes the way you see the world, working out and being physically healthy.
Yeah.
And I think most importantly, setting goals for yourself and being able to accomplish them and seeing the fruits of your labor genuinely changes something in your brain chemistry, where I just feel like because I've done it once, I'm like, I will be able to do it again. I'll be able to tackle whatever issue I want to, as long as I fucking put some time and investment into it and commit to it and develop consistency.
Before you figured that out, how did you get to that point when you didn't get that reaction? Because most people are like, right now, right? It's New Year. Everyone talks about New Year, new me, all the shit that everyone says. And everyone's kind of like, not everyone, because some people get out, like you got out as far as like your goal and you actually achieved it. But to the people who are kind of stuck in that circle, what's your perspective, or what would you tell that person? And essentially, what did you tell yourself to keep going when it wasn't what you wanted it to be?
Yeah, I mean, I was fat my whole life, so that was the one
You're
thing.
also tall as fuck, though, to be fair.
No, that was definitely a benefit for sure. I could hide it, but like I was fat, you know? I was still very insecure about it. And for me, I think I was like, when I first moved out here, I was surrounded by other like personal trainers. We were living in I was living basically for almost no cost at a frat house because I didn't have anywhere to live and I didn't make enough money to like be able to rent a apartment.
I've been there.
Yeah. So I was living in the kitchen of a frat house and like everyone was a PT.
Yeah.
So then, and I had more free time. So I was like, you know, we just worked out. It was a social thing.
I'm surprised you didn't go more Republican with your views. I feel like most gym bros like end up going there.
I know. It's interesting because like, I don't know. I think being healthy is a thing on its own. It's not like a political thing.
Of course not. I'm just saying, you're absolutely right.
But I do see that, except for, you know, Jeff Niverett, my boy, shouts out.
Yeah. Good guy.
Yeah.
Good guy. I want to have him on here. Talk. He just released a book. I want to talk to him about it.
That's my homie.
But what I'm saying is like, I mean, even in the sense, like, I guess I would consider myself more right, but like, I'm not really. Like I'm open. I like to listen and I like to understand all sides of everything. I've always been that way. Yeah. I've never been like sort of dogged with like, if someone says this and, you know, they said something else that I thought then it was true, then I just go, okay, then everything else they say is true. I've always been like, I don't know, let me ask more questions. Which is why, like, in general, I even love having conversations with you because I know we have such a different perspective on a lot of things.
Yeah.
But I guess, why do you think people tend to like, I don't know, just pick and stick in an echo chamber? And do you think, do you sometimes find yourself in that in your own?
I mean, for sure. It's comfort. It's a sense of community. It's a shared understanding of the world that is very comforting for a lot of people. People look for it in many different ways. And there's a concept of third spaces, places that you can go to where you can be around other members of the public, right? Yeah. Public parks, movie theaters, things of that nature, gyms. Yeah. Exactly. I feel like now, because we live so much online, we spend so much time out of the day, you know, being online, like we don't really have that sense of community over mutual interests as much. So then we just like seek out these communities online. And I do think that there's definitely something very unhealthy about it.
Yeah.
Where it does like harden your viewpoints and you constantly hear people that you agree with and that can lead you astray. And it shuts off your curiosity. It shuts off your charitability.
I'd say especially now with the sort of like type of content that seems to be most consumed, which is clips.
Yeah.
Because it's like people don't even get the full context of conversations now.
Ever.
And they just go, he said this, that's it.
Yeah. Dude, I mean, I'll give you an example. I went to Skid Row yesterday. Homelessness increased by 18% this past year. We have
worldwide or nationwide?
No. Nationwide.
Nationwide, yeah.
So that means in the United States of America now, while we're having this conversation, there's more than 700,000 people that are sleeping outside. Okay. A lot of these guys are like addicted to fentanyl. There's a lot of drug problems. There's a lot of mental health problems. There's like crime. There's a lot of theft, assault, sexual assaults, and the like. It's horrifying. And it's a policy problem. It's a systemic failure, right? But the media also, I think, plays a role in dehumanizing homeless people. And especially when you see like the only interaction that you have with a homeless person is usually just like a person basically at the final stage of homelessness that looks like a zombie that's like shitting outside of your house or jerking off outside of your house. You're like, oh my God, this is terrifying. Like this is just like, you know, this Bedlam. This is Gotham City. Where the fuck is Batman? Right? And the media also plays into that a little bit, I think, by like actively also dehumanizing homeless people. What was it? Soft White Underbelly, I think, does a pretty decent job of like showcasing the background and perspective of homeless people. There's a big YouTube channel. Yeah. I don't know if you've ever seen those like the black and white interviews. Yeah. And, you know, there's some people out there that do a decent job. But basically I saw that and I saw so much violence that was happening against homeless people as well. And like the lack of interest from people like in seeing their humanity and seeing their background and seeing like that they're literally people exactly like your aunts, your uncles, people that, you know, once had a normal existence, a normal life. Too. Yeah, lots of veterans, exactly. And so I wanted to work with a local charity that already, like a local organization that already works on.
Been following since the woke bait TYT days after lockdowns and vaccines rolled out. I set to build a third spade in my community, and I did so this year by joining a local org and creating a weekly paint night. Has been very successful. An example of real world impact your work has. Hell yeah, Omega Reagan. That's awesome.
Skid Row, and go there, buy a bunch of materials that they need, and also bring some clothes as well. Like old clothes of mine, because people send me merch all the fucking time.
You didn't film this?
No, I did. The reason why I did.
HasanAbi pipeline is real. Listening to this is reminding me of my own political deconstruction process that happened watching your stream 3 years ago. Thank you for your consistent messaging and work. You're so good at reaching bros. You were the first bro I ever heard hold space for queer people. Your messaging literally saved my life. Yeah. I'm always holding space for queer people. I'm holding the space so I can hurt them better.
Did it. And I didn't film like any of the, I didn't film like the homeless people at all. I didn't put a fucking camera on their faces. The people that we talked to wanted to, ahead of time, through this organization, said they wanted to share their perspectives. So the way I set this up is that, you know, we were doing a good deed. It's fine. I went and bought like a bunch of tarps, and apparently that's like one of the most commonly requested items so they can build their tents, and which is like such a patchwork solution. Like it's not even a solution at all. You know what I mean? Like that's crazy that these are people that are so desperate that like, it's just like, yeah, they want to build, like that's housing material.
You know what I can't stand on this conversation is that when the Olympics are coming or when China's coming to fucking, they fix it.
Yeah, but that's the problem.
They're building a bunch of like condos down there, but in the Olympic area.
Yeah, they don't fix it though. They just like literally shelve them. Like they come in and they do this thing called sweeps, which is ironically one of the things that I talked to them about. And they just take their shit. Like the cops come and they just fucking wipe out the street, right? And from your perspective, you're like, oh, finally, the streets are clean. Like what the fuck? There's trash everywhere. Otherwise, like this is a good thing. But from their perspective, it's like they just had like basically they have nothing to begin with, and the things that they have value for them, like things that they care about, like, you know, a note from their mom or something, you know,
or
things
a generator.
like remnants. Yeah, exactly. Or remnants of their humanity, right?
Yeah.
Are just taken away from them, and it fucks their lives up. And then they get like slammed into like some shelter or something. They just like pack them there. And then, you know, a week goes by and they're like, all right, you can go back, you know, and then they have to start over again. And obviously the solution isn't to like let people fucking live out on the streets and just like do drugs out in the open or slowly decline mentally until they're just completely gone. The solution is, and this has been very successful in places like Helsinki and Finland, the solution is putting them into permanent shelter and then kickstart the recovery process. Because there's a shit ton of people that do fucking drugs, but they do drugs in their own homes, and it's not the same problem.
Right.
It's very different when you're out, you know, braving the elements, and in that process, you're like, this is fucked up. Like I need something to cope with this. And you know, the person in the tent next to you is like, here, you want some crack? And he's like, sure, I'll take some crack. And then you become a crack addict.
Yeah.
So that's usually how it happens. But the conversation that I'm having with you about this is exactly what I wanted to showcase. And that is what a lot of these guys wanted to talk about directly.
What were they saying?
I met this guy named Hawk, 70 years old. He's a musician. He has a dog, he's a pit bull, and he just lives in a tent. And he's been in and out, and he's been on the streets for, you know, longer than 10 years at this point.
Holy shit.
Yeah. I met a guy named Glenn, I think 14 years of just like being homeless. He was just evicted. He was just evicted by his management company, and they didn't even give him any time to just like leave. He had a hard time paying his rent, but then he did a GoFundMe and was able to get the money to pay the rent, but they still evicted him. He mentioned that he was also doing drugs, and I think that's part of the reason, probably why.
Yeah.
But ultimately, the way I see it is like these people need help. Like they need counselors. You know what I mean? They need the people to go to where they're at.